Hello everyone, my name is Gnanaraj. I'm a certified nutritionist, fitness consultant, and wellness coach working for last 20 years. With my experience of 20 years, I would like to present you one of the wonderful small topic videos on whole grain and refined grains and multi-grains. A lot of people ask me to present this video, so they wanted to clarify. So that's the reason why I am making this video. And before that, let me help you to understand about myself. My name is Gnanaraju. I'm a certified nutritionist, fitness consultant, and a wellness coach. And let me help you to understand about this topic. What is whole grains and multi-grains and refined grains? So many people come to me and they ask me what the difference between refined grains and whole grains and multi-grains. So let me explain all these through step by step through my slides. Like ragi, you can see this lot of grains, millets, sorghum, bajra, rice, and wheat and oats, and all this comes under whole grains. You can see some of the examples: amaranth seeds and buckwheat, quinoa, barley, rye, wheat, triticale, spelt, bulgur, farro, teff, millet, oats, sorghum, corn. All this comes under millet, comes under whole grains. So now, if you understand, nowadays everybody is asking us to take um, whole grains, particularly millet. This, last year is called millet year, right? So now people are asking us to choose these whole grains, and the whole grains are supposed to be whole, not piecemeal. So what does it mean? I'll explain you a little later. So buckwheat, millet, amaranth, quinoa, black rice, wild rice, red rice, brown rice, steppe, and all these are comes under um, whole grains, right? So now, why whole grains? Not just only because of they have fiber, but also because they also have inside lot of nutrients like phytonutrients and phytoestrogens, like vitamins like vitamin E, vitamin B, and minerals like zinc, selenium, copper. Those are there. Let me explain little more details into the anatomy or the structure of each grain, right? If you see this picture, so this anatomy of a grain consisting of three major components. One is bran, another is inside layer called endosperm, and a little more germinating part called germ. And the most nutritious parts are these two, bran and the germ. Okay, so bran protects the seed outer layer, and it has fiber, B vitamins, and minerals. So when you polish them, these two will go, bran and germ will go. So germ is a very good for nourishment for the seed. Like it also consisting of vitamins, B vitamin, vitamin E, and certain minerals like copper, selenium, and all that. So, but inside, the most of the part is inside, there only sugar, mostly sugar. So now if you see this, whole grain and refined grain, what is the difference? In the refined grain, only endosperm is there. Whereas in a whole grain, bran is there and germ is there, right? You understand this now. So now with the whole grain, for the refined grains, when you refine it, naturally you lose out what bran and the germ. Naturally in the kernel, that is the grain part, you lose them. So what is left over is the endosperm. Endosperm is only mostly sugar. White, for example, rice, in the brown rice, bran will be there, germ will be there, most nutritious part. When you mill it, when you polish the rice or the wheat, naturally you are losing out bran and the germ, the important nutritious layers. So naturally, some food manufacturing companies, they come out with one word called enriched grains or enriched bread, enriched rice. What does it indicate? Enriched means they're adding some more supplements inside. For example, in the white rice, they're adding some, say, iron. Okay, so that's called enriched rice. In the bread, they add, suppose, some extra minerals, then it's called enriched bread. So, but ultimately, enriched grains are not exactly, helpful as good as whole grains. They are not as good as whole grains. There may be somewhat extent okay, but not really great. How much whole grains as usually a person supposed to be eating? So Western society, they don't eat so much of whole grain. So that is a way, like in English, countries like England and US, they encourage people to eat lot of whole grains, particularly for a small child. Average children, they're supposed to eat up to 20 grams of whole grain. For average adult, 48 to 50 grams approximately. So now most of the processed foods like can see the most of sweets, most of the bakery foods, and you can see noodles and pasta, regular pasta. Those are containing no fiber, no outside coat. So they are based on refined flour, right? So, but unfortunately, some manufacturing companies come with confused labels. What does it confused labels? Like they say oat biscuit means we always think oats means good. So because it contains fiber. So, but this oat is refined oat. Okay. So again, they are like candy, sugar. But sometimes they say digestive biscuit, sugar-free biscuit, but biscuit is a biscuit, right? So may not be having this sugar, directly added sugar, but they may be having starch. So we should be careful when they say different kind of claims, should be always careful. So instead of going for white bread, what if you go for brown bread, right? So let us understand what is brown bread, what is white bread. So I will explain a little later. So now most of the refined flour, in terms of wheat, we call maida or refined flour. So when you use that refined flour and make most of the baked items like cakes, biscuits, pastries, puffs, egg puff, curry puff, and all that. And in the sweet shop also, when you go to sweet shop, many of the sweets consist, they are made up of maida or refined flour, atta. So now most of the rotis, like rumali roti, you know, so those are rotis are made up of maida, so which is not good because they don't have fiber. They also don't have the outer layers, right? So now that's the reason why we always advise you not to visit so frequently the bakery shops and sweet shops. Not so great. So you carefully plan for while eating breakfast, lunch, and snacks and all that. Now let me add you little more, one more component called multi-grain. What is this multi-grain? Whole wheat or whole bread or whole grain means it consists of a whole, right? But multi-grain means different grains are added while making that kind of food, maybe the bread or any kind of food. So multi-grain is different grains, maybe different kind of millets, maybe different kind of rice and wheat and maybe some millets all put together called multi-grain. Different grains are added. So what does it indicate? We think it is very nutritious. Yes, it's nutritious, but you have to be careful. Multi-grain does not mean they're whole grain. Remember this point. Meaning, multi-grain biscuit may be also having some refined grains also. Refined grains are not good. So multi-grain does not mean it's a whole grain. Multi-grain only means it has lot of grains. But we require whole grain also in the multi-grain. Now you understood the point. So that is the reason why when you study the label, understand that it has really whole grain and multi-grain, that will be excellent. Now this is refined grain, maida or based on refined flour. The white color bread is bad because it only like a sugar. Directly when it goes into the body, it becomes like a sugar. Okay, so naturally other kind of problems will come. Now, whereas if you eat whole grains, though it is a bread, okay, whole grain, but it is a bread. So naturally it also gives us sugar. Okay, but refined grains are more dangerous, but whole grains are little better, but they are also sugar, comes under sugar only, carbohydrates only. Remember this. Now, whole grains, because they have more fiber, more little vitamins and minerals, so little nutritious than the refined grains. This is very simple to understand. So now there is one more bread coming called brown bread. What is the difference between refined white bread and brown bread? Brown breads are the breads. Usually we consider them to be more healthier. Okay. Why? Because we think they are made up of, relatively whole grain, but they are not the same. Whole grains are more better than the brown breads. Why? Because brown bread sometimes they try to add the sugar component. When you burn the sugar, it's called caramelized. That sugar burnt, that will give you brown color. Like they try to add like a paint on the white bread. So basically it's a white bread. On that they added the caramel. Looks like this brown bread. But that's the reason why brown breads has to be inspected thoroughly. If it is really made up of whole grain, then it's okay. If it is not really made up of whole grain, then brown breads could be white breads with just added caramelized sugar, right? Understand this. So be careful about checking brown bread and white bread and whole grain bread, right? So be careful. Always, which is the first preference to take? Whole grain bread. Then if it's not available, then go for brown bread. If it's not available, then go for white bread. Okay, white bread is the last preference. Now I give you some difference between whole grain corn and refined corn, whole grain oats and refined oats, whole grain rice and refined rice, and whole grain wheat and refined wheat. So I can give you a few examples. I'll read out for you. In the corn, whole grain comes under whole grain corn meal, whole grain corn flour, masa, harina. Whereas in the refined corn section, you will get this corn meal, enriched corn meal, corn flour, degerminated corn, grits, and corn starch. Okay, once these nine names come, that means this is a refined corn. Corn itself is sugar. Remember, all these oats, rice, all comes under carbohydrates family only. Oats. Oats again rolled. The whole grain variety comes under rolled oats, steel cut oats, quick cooking oats, old fashioned oats, whole oat flour. These are good oats because they are having whole grain oats. But these are not so great oats. For example, they can comes under refined grains like oat bran, oat flour, refined oat flour. Okay, then these names comes while making that kind of bread or any kind of food cookie or anything, then you should be careful because not whole grain oat. In the rice items again, we always prefer eating brown rice and colored rice like black rice, red rice, etc. Whereas in the rice item, you should not eat refined rice items. For example, white rice, basmati rice, arborio rice, jasmine rice. Their looks very good, taste very good, but unfortunately they are refined grains. So we don't require so much in quantity. So next one is in the wheat. In the wheat items, you can always prefer whole grain wheat rather than refined wheat. In the whole grain wheat section, you can see whole wheat, whole grain wheat, whole durum wheat. Whereas in the wheat section, you can see them white flour, wheat flour, enriched flour, semolina, wheat jam. If these names comes, then you should be suspicious about the refined wheat section, right? Now you're understanding little better about whole grain and refined grain and multi-grain section. Then how can I increase my intake? Simple. Just watch the label. Whenever they write it whole grain in the first section, that means they're really whole grain. If it is written somewhere inside, then it's not really clearly mentioning, so you should be suspicious. So in the food, while buying these kind of foods, always there will be swapping section. Always swap means change. In place of this, pay for this, take this, buy this. So in place of white bread, swap this white bread and take whole grain bread. When you buy white rice, don't buy white rice, buy brown rice. While you go into supermarket, instead of buying pasta, try to buy or eat whole wheat pasta because they are good varieties, good variants. And there is one more interesting point. This is my last point. Called whole grain myth. What is this myth? Many people so far we studied whole grain is good, whole grain is good, great. But what manufacturing companies they started doing is instead of directly making whole grain consists of three components, right? I remember I was telling you bran, endosperm, and germ. Out of these three, when they're in the natural state, they'll be together. Okay, so then it's very healthy. But unfortunately, manufacturing company they try to remove each component and try to again reassemble them. Okay, then again it will not have the same impact. And added to that, some other governments like US government and the Canada government, sometimes they give legal definition, the change for the encouraging the food manufacturers. They say if the biscuit or the food cookie or anything has up to at least 51% of the whole grain, then still you can call it as a whole grain biscuit, whole grain cookie, and all that. So, but 49%, that means almost half of it is again not whole grain. Okay, it's refined. So be careful about choosing the name whole grain. Okay, in some of the Canadian, you know, legal terminology, they also consider even there is no germ part. Germ is removed, but still we can call them as whole grain. So these are some of the loopholes. So there is a little be careful while understanding about choosing about whole grain. So it should be natural state whole grain and shouldn't be assembled by food manufacturing companies. Very carefully how to follow. And at the end of the time, end of the day, this ultimately this is carbohydrate from sugar only. So always minimize it. Always minimize it. That's why there is carbohydrate choice continuum. There's like a cycle, So in place of this, always go for this. Like what is written left side, my left side part is eat more, like fruits and vegetables. They have more fiber, more sugar, more good nutrients. Whereas here, if what is shown in the right side, my right side, you should eat less. For example, soft drinks and foods and beverages high in added sugar, cut down as much you can. And potatoes and biscuits and chips and their refined things, mostly they are sugar only. Biscuits, all this sugar it should be minimized. Cookies, all that minimized. So go for more whole grain, okay, more less processed foods. That is always safe. Less processed, more whole grain, and better is even more better natural state. There should be whole grain, and better than that is the best is fruits and vegetables. So that's the reason why we always give first preference to fruits and vegetables. We always say when you want to lose weight, when calories is an issue, we say why don't you cut down, eating all grains also sometimes. So because your choice is less calories, you also have to eat good carbohydrates. So that is the reason why good carbohydrates already there in fruits and vegetables. So you can always have a choice between limiting your sugar content as well. But if you're confused with all that terminology and this my whatever I was telling you, so it's always good idea to talk to me personalized for having a personalized diet plan and weight loss plan and nutritional plan to bridge the gap between gaps, habits, lifestyle habits correction, and all that we are there to help you. We have 20 years of experience in this field. You can have a look at my qualifications. I did my MS in zoology. I have 20 years of experience in this field. I also have advanced diploma in nutrition fitness. I also have certification in advanced clinical nutrition. I also have certifications in nutrition fitness consultant, certified sports nutrition consultant, certified exercise science specialist, certified calisthenics trainer, duathlete. I'm a duathlete and marathon runner, cyclist and CPRE certified. I also have Zumba and Strong by Zumba certifications. To call me or reach out to me, these are my places: Instagram, Facebook, website, YouTube, email, phone numbers are given. You can always talk to us. So thank you so much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please like this video and subscribe to my channel and forward this video to many people so that they also get benefited out of this. And thank you for your attention. Wish you all the best. God bless you. Thank you so much for your patience. All the best. Tata. See you. Bye bye.